I just wanted to point out that it's an Erasmus Plus cooperative partnership. What that simply means is that it's a partnership between a number of countries working on a specific topic. And in this case, it was, I suppose it was originally aimed at schools, and we were determined in Cork ETB to try to pull people from different sectors into the project. So over the course of the project, from the ETB, we had Dara involved from adult education, I stayed involved from FET, and Deirdre Bevan from First Community College represented the school side of things. So within the ETB, we did very much make it a cross-sectoral project. Okay, and these are the partners that we have. So obviously Cork ETB, the second two partners up there are from Portugal. The second of those is from the island of Madeira, so not on the mainland, but Madeira is a Portuguese territory, I suppose the best.
Autonomous region.
Exactly, no, the autonomous regions. And then we had two partners, then we have a partner in Spain, from a place called Talavera, which is about an hour from Madrid, so right in the centre of the country. And Talavera, I suppose, from my perspective, is an important partner because we've been working with the school in Talavera for about 20 years now with Cork ETB, so it's a very long-term partnership. And I hope they've gained as much from it as we have.
Yes.
And then the last two partners are from Turkey, but again from very different parts of Turkey. Peydas are from Zondalak, which is right up on the north of Turkey and the north of the Black Sea. A very pretty area, as we discovered. And the second partner, Kushkit, are from Kushadasa. I think a lot of people will be familiar with Kushadasa because it's a big holiday destination from us here. And I suppose the beginning of the project, we wanted to look at the importance of values education. And the project started simply, as you'd expect, by just looking at values in general and looking at how we teach values or where we get our values from. And from my point of view, at the beginning of the project, I wasn't the most enthusiastic about going into this because it was the Turkish, to be fair, were the ones who were the driving force and pulled us in. Because I suppose, like a lot of people, the word values, it's like the word, duty and responsibility. They're in a way almost out of fashion. It's not that we don't have values, but we don't use the word so much. And I also, I suppose, from an effect point of view, was thinking, what's it really got to do with us anyway? And then, of course, it was pointed out to me that I had done a lot of projects in the last couple of years on sustainability. And somebody said, well, why are you doing sustainability? Isn't that because of your values? What you think about sustainability, what you do in terms of recycling, how you live your life, is all based on your values. To a large extent, your political views are based on your values and values learned. Not necessarily when you vote for Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael or Sinn Féin, but your views in terms of using violence, for example, or what's happening in Ukraine or what's happening in Palestine or Israel at the moment. Your values guide all of that. And I think once people convinced me that was the case and that really, that I was using all these values all the time without thinking about it, I started to see that maybe this is something we should look at more. And then we started saying, no, go back, guys. So then we go back one, yeah, stay there. So we started looking at where we get our values from. And of course, primarily your values come from home. Your parents, how you were brought up, that's a very big part of values education. And then the community, peers, I don't think you can begin to underestimate or to overestimate how important your peers are in terms of shaping your values. But I suppose the important thing from the project's point of view, or from our point of view, was that we became very conscious that your values can be changed over time. That they change anyway. And that just because your parents brought you up in a particular way doesn't mean you stay that way. And your values can be changed for good or bad. And obviously that's where education comes into it then, and that's where our role is. That we're starting with the values the person already has from the community, from home, but we can influence how those values develop and how they develop over time. And one would hope, I suppose, that your values mature as you get older, that you become more sensible, that you start to think things through. And then something that actually Pat McKelvey said the other day, because he was talking to this group the other day, and he was talking about how we make our judgments based through the prism of the values. and how sometimes when we're trying to decide whether we should or should not do something, that we should actually take the values that we have, or in the case of an organisation, the values that have been set up for the organisation, and say, well, using the prism of that value, should we make this decision as a yes or no? And he gave a couple of examples to the group the other day of schools who had decisions to make, and he gave a few examples of how they had made a decision, and then he asked them to look at it based on the ETB's values, and through the prism of that, they made the opposite decision. And, so it does feed into real life. It's not just I suppose, what I'm trying to say is it's not just something out there or fiction, it's something we all do all of the time without necessarily thinking about it. And then it was, this is pretty obvious really, but I mean, we said that values affect our views on things like immigrants and racism, sustainability, equality, gender equality, because that very much comes from our values. And then also things like duty, responsibility, even though they're not very popular words, they're used in other ways. We don't really talk about people's duties anymore. But at the same time, we do all have duties that we have to fulfill. We all have responsibilities we have to take. And so we might not use the word. Okay, okay, so what we were trying to do with the project is we wanted to first of all examine the shared European values. And that's important because we were saying, like, what within the EU, what are the shared values? Because obviously there are going to be differences in countries. And even when you're in a small group like this, when you're talking about Spain, Portugal, Turkey, Ireland, you will see that there are certain different views, perhaps particularly when it comes to some political views, but we share more than we disagree on. So we were looking to say, what are the shared values, what are the things that we all hold to be relevant and so on. And then we wanted to examine those, so we looked at the educational settings, and we looked at each country, and we did a report on how values are taught in each country, and what type of values education is there. So that report is available, or will be available. And then we said we work with students to gain another perspective, so we brought students to Portugal. The students from Ireland who went to Erasmus Community College. And they went to Portugal, they met the Portuguese students, Spanish students, and so on. And we had an opportunity to discuss what they felt about things and get their perspective. We also used that as an opportunity to test the values platform. And then we wanted to provide tools for teachers and students involved in values education, and that's where the platform that Caris will show you in a few minutes comes in. So the project results, what we wanted to, what we've now finished with the project, is that we produced modules for the platform on human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, rule of law, and respect for human rights. So there's a module within the training course on the platform for each of those topics. I just thought it was interesting last night when I saw that Ursula von der Leyen announced that Ireland was getting rule of law as its portfolio in the European Commission. So it kind of fitted in with what we were doing very well, even though I'm sure Pascal, who is it? Mike McGrath. I'm sure he has no idea what we were doing. But they were the modules that we put in, and then as well as that, we have set up an online teacher community. Basically, all the community is a place where teachers can come in, can ask questions, and can have discussions with other teachers who are teaching the same subjects. There's, it's a bit like any of these communities where you can set up a thread, and you can ask and say something like, I'm teaching human rights. Does anybody have any good videos that we can look at in this, and somebody can reply to me, and so on. We've also put up a section on frequently asked questions on that. We are going to have some video material up there as well. So this is something that can be expanded afterwards. But it also means that teachers who sign into the platform can upload material there. So if you have a document that you think is valuable that other teachers might be able to use, you can share that document and so on. So that's what the platform is intended for. And then we have a website. The website is very easy. It's just called validproject.eu. So it's a very easy one to remember, validproject.eu. And everything can be accessed from the website. So from just that address, validproject.eu, you can access the online teacher community and also the training material. When you go into the online teaching community the first time, Carlos explained this, you have to register, but obviously registering is free, and we're not a company that, a company or something, we don't send you any junk email back. You just get one email to say that you're registered, and after that we don't bother you anymore. Okay? And then, like all projects, like all European projects, we have to disseminate the project. So we're at the moment at a point where we're trying to promote the material, and that will go into the next couple of months as well, to try, I suppose, to get more teachers to sign up for the training, but also to sign up for the teacher community. So we want teachers to sign into this. Show how values education impacts on all aspects of citizenship, and promote the valid platform and teacher community. So that's what this is about to some extent. And then sustainability going into the future, continue working. So the project officially ends at the end of the month. Actually, it ends on the 27th. What that means in reality, it doesn't mean that all of this disappears. It just means that we no longer get any funding from that period. But the platform will still be there, the learning event will still be there, we'll still try to keep things up to date, but it depends on usage. I mean, it's, as you can imagine, something like the teacher community is only good if teachers sign up and use it. If nobody signs up and nobody uses it, then a couple of months it will be disappeared again. And then other developing education, sorry, these are just the project itself, as well as the work on the project. I think anybody involved in European projects will know that one of the key things with projects is to try to develop networks. You want to develop networks where you're working with teachers from different countries. It's not just the teachers who are in the project, it's also the opportunity to meet others. So for example, if you go to Portugal for a meeting or you go to Spain for a meeting, to try to make contacts, try to make links, find other links and similarities between Cork CETB and what they're doing, and see if there are other possibilities. It might be for student exchange or teacher exchange. So that's always a kind of a side element of projects that's always there. Okay, and then continuing to share best practice and looking at other cooperative activities. Okay, yeah, okay, that shouldn't be there. Okay, so that's where I'm going to finish. So it's just an introduction. What we'll do is we'll take the other two speakers, because they're doing it in more detail than I am, and then if people have questions or if people have comments, we're quite happy to take them. Okay? Thank you.